The Badgers with a top 5 portal class so far. Have they won over their biggest critic? Let's talk about that next on Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers crossover with Locked On Portal. We got Brian Smith, a.k.a. Mr. Positivity, Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Everything is Great in the world of Wisconsin on the show today. We are talking about where the Badgers have started, Colton Joseph, the bevy of cornerbacks that they've brought in, the running back, offensive linemen. A lot to get into today with Mr. Positivity. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Brian, I think we start here. You've been a little outspoken just on Wisconsin in terms of their ability to maybe land the quarterback. How do you feel about the start for the Badgers? Just big picture before we get into the individual pieces.
I actually just did a live show on the Portal podcast, and I was positive about Wisconsin more than once. I mean, that's maybe never even happened on your show. So they've spent the money. They found fit at different positions, quarterback in particular. They realize that you've got to spend big money, especially at quarterback. They've done all the right things. This is how you win in big-time college football. Why it wasn't the case the last couple of years, I don't know. But right now, if you're a Wisconsin fan, you have to be ecstatic. If you're not, what are you doing? Yeah, this administration and the boosters, whoever's funding the NIL, it's a totally different program. So good for Wisconsin and everybody that supports it.
And we're going to talk about the individual pieces, but what does it tell you from someone who follows this stuff really closely? They went out and got Colton Joseph. They got cornerbacks from Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Arizona State. They got another one from Florida State that we're going to talk about, a starting running back potential from Iowa State, a starting center. Just big picture, what does that amount of resource look like?
I mean, I'm shocked, first off, because they not only got those guys, they got them pretty quick. So they did their due diligence behind the scenes. I knew about a few guys they were looking at from my Wisconsin source, but they went out and they found guys from everywhere. That tells me the back office is aligned with what the coaching staff wants, and the NIL dollars also match. All those things have to match. And I know there are sometimes arguments about who we should or shouldn't take at every school. They figured it out. So that's good. And again, this is the kind of spending and organization that you need to see at an Ohio State, at a Georgia, at a Texas, if they're going to win too. So this is a great sign for Wisconsin moving forward. And a little hint, I'm going to give a prediction on the Badgers for next year based on this that I think a lot of fans will be surprised with later on in the show.
Well, let's hit on Colton Joseph first. Obviously, that's the face of the portal class. You bring in the quarterback, Old Dominion, potentially 2 years left, a great athlete, a really good fit for what Jeff Grimes wants to do. So to your point, I think you said it really well. It's not just a quarterback, it's a fit for what they want to do offensively, potentially 2 years left. I mean, we all know things change quickly in the portal era, but how would you grade the addition of Colton Joseph? What's his floor ceiling? What are you looking for next year? And are you worried about the jump from Old Dominion to the Big Ten?
That last one I want to tackle first. Here's the ironic part. They opened their season with Indiana this past, August 30th, whatever that date was. He ran for 179 yards. He's had the best rushing total, running back or otherwise, against the Hoosiers since Cignetti found himself in Bloomington of anyone. That's an athlete. If you're going to run the quarterback, you might as well get one that can score. He can score. On every single play, you have to use one of the following scenarios. Your linebacker's spying him or your safety spying him, and it screws up your coverage. Is he Joe Montana as a passer? No, but he's also a guy that's still good enough that he can throw deep. He's got the arm strength to roll left and still hit a guy on the sideline. The difference in what they have scheme-wise for what they want to do is just million miles better. They had too many statues over the last 10 years, especially here lately. And I think this is a guy that he can come in and be one of the most important players to a team of any school in the country. There's a reason I think it's a top 5 portal class so far. The fit is there, impact players. It shows the fans, the boosters we're serious. Wisconsin right now has an A with their portal efforts, and it starts with Joseph.
And not to hit on this again, but I think it's important. This is a player that I know we've talked about it. You had talked about it a little bit on your show. At least Florida State was kicking the tires on, if not more. Florida, there was another SEC school in on him. What does it say nationally? The Badgers coming off the year they had with a receiver room that still isn't really built out to be able to land a quarterback that had a lot of other options, SEC, ACC, Big 12. What does that kind of say nationally?
That means they're trying to be a real football program again, and being a real football program again. And it's not the NIL, it's the scouting, being on the same page with the coaching staff, at the back office, with the administration. Like right now, Florida State, it's a little dysfunctional. I don't want to go down that path. I do run Locked On Seminoles too, but they're not as congruent, let's say, as what is going on in Badgerland. So that's the most important part. And then on top of it, the finish deals, when it's close, that's when NIL really matters, whether it's recruiting or the portal. I know of a lot of kids that have taken less money to pick school A over school B because they felt comfortable with the offense or the defense, close to home, academic. There's a lot of other factors. But having good NIL is oftentimes the deal breaker. Like if you're not close, the kid's going to pass. You have to be very competitive. I don't know if Joseph's offer to Wisconsin was the highest, but from what we've heard numbers wise, it's competitive with the market with where he's at. I don't think he's necessarily a top 10 quarterback in the portal, but he's at least on the cusp. And for what they wanted to run, he's top 5. Easy, because he's such a great athlete. So Wisconsin knocked it out of the park for what they're trying to do across the board. Again, hats off to everybody there.
Well, and let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. They also brought in some help. Now, they need more receivers. We're going to talk about things they still need to do. But they also picked up a starting center, Austin Kawecki. If you're going to get the quarterback, you got to protect him. Austin, this is a spot you and I talked about. Outside of quarterback, center, a few defensive line. It's really hard to get some spots. Starting center at Oklahoma State last year, over 600 snaps, pretty good pass blocker. That's a big get for the Badgers.
Anytime you can get a center that's plug and play, it's important. Look at Miami this year. They went and got a portal guy. Was at TCU, played at Bama prior, 5th-year senior. He's going to make himself some money. He's had a pretty good year, and he got better as the year went on. But 22-year-olds that have been through 4 years of weight training on the offensive line, sign me up. Very few linemen get in the portal that people want. I mean, very few. And this year is garbage. It is really bad. So for them to get a center that they can plug and play, I mean, I know it's not going to be a very sexy pick, but Wisconsin, I mean, Joseph, he's quarterback. Okay, that's some. You could probably argue at the end of this entire cycle that getting a center is the most important thing other than because, A, there aren't many. He makes the line calls. In Wisconsin, let's be honest, their O-line's been okay, but they need to take a step up if they're going to win more games. This is where you really make it happen because he makes sure everybody's doing the right things. Really good spot for Wisconsin to hit on, and they did it early. Again, congrats.
Yeah, and that's a spot the Badgers have struggled at the last several years with injury and consistency. They haven't been able to find that starting pivot, so that's a big deal. A big picture, and then we're going to get into cornerbacks next, which I'm really excited to pick your brain on. One of those you know very well. But big picture, there are a lot of Badger fans that are just saying, hey, we've been burned in the portal before. Billy Edwards didn't work. Tyler Van Dyke didn't work. Some of these pieces didn't work. I'm not going to get excited about this. My counterpoint to that was, it doesn't mean it's going to work, but all you can judge right now in the portal, this portal system, this portal year is what they've done. And I don't know how else to frame, they've done really well. And it's okay to be excited about what they've done so far. And that doesn't mean they're going to win the title. It doesn't mean every guy's going to pan out. But it feels like if you're, again, you mentioned this earlier, if you're not excited about what they've done so far, maybe you're just not an offseason guy.
Look, it's early January. What else do you want them to do? You know, they can't turn around and put these players on the 2025 roster, although I'm sure they would love to. So, yeah, they've stunk the last couple of years. That is not a news flash. Having stated that, the only thing you can do right now is improve your coaching staff, your back office, and your recruiting / portal. Well, obviously the back office is working well because this doesn't happen. It's got to be congruent to agree with the coaching staff. That means GM, that means the scouts, that means the recruiting staff. Like, that stuff's working. Then you got to have the NIL to finish deals. Colton Joseph would not have committed to the Badgers. And finally, the fan base just has to accept it. Like, hey, we're actually trying here. Because I was the reason I put Mr. Positivity for those of you watching on YouTube, because I hammer the administration all the time because they didn't want to spend. That is flipped. I said I would give them credit when it happened. And right now it's happening. So props to Wisconsin. They've got all those things together. I don't have anything to complain about with what they're doing right now. And I always find things to complain about. I can assure you of that. So congrats to Wisconsin.
We still may hit on one or two as the show goes along. We'll probably find something. But we're going to take a second here. We're going to come back and talk about the 4 cornerbacks Wisconsin's brought in, including a guy off a certain program that Mr. Positivity covers. What does he know about Kai Bates, plus the others? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second, as always, say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers, Locked On Portal crossover edition. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Rocket Money. Listen, finances can be tough. It can be difficult to manage. We have a lot of subscriptions, a lot of different streaming services. Every sporting event in the world now has its own streaming platform. It's insane. And a lot of people you get the streaming platform for that one game, and then you forget to cancel it. These things add up. And when you start adding up multiple things over the course of multiple months, you are wasting potentially a ton of money. Rocket Money, is here to help you clean up all those unwanted subscriptions, figure out where your money's going, automatically categorize all your spending habits, help you be a little bit better with your money in 2026, which is a big deal. It tracks all your subscriptions, lets you cancel them right there, so you don't have to jump through a bunch of different hoops. And it helps you realize kind of where some of your money leaks are. It's just a personal financial tool. And we could all use a little bit of help in this area. 2026, let's make it a little better with our money. Right now, let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon to get started, get a little bit better with your money in 2026. Now, let's get Mr. Positivity back in here. Brian, 4 cornerbacks coming into the Badgers this portal season so far. Kai Bates from Florida State. You have Javon Robinson, who started the last 2 years at Arizona State. Eric Fletcher started last year at Oklahoma State. And then today, Brian West from Ohio State, former 4-star cornerback. Let's start with just big picture here. They pulling cornerbacks from those 4 programs, several with multiple years of eligibility left. This feels like another spot where the Badgers attacked aggressively and hit on the people that they wanted to get.
Javon Robinson is from West Orange High School on the north side of Orlando. I've seen him play live. He's a kid that I was kind of surprised when he went to Arizona State originally, but he's been a starter, and I'm looking at his PFF grades against the quarterback for Baylor. He's going to go to the draft. He had a 71 coverage grade against Texas Tech, who had the best team in the Big 12 by a mile this year. He had a 75 coverage grade. And even against Colorado, who tries to throw it around everywhere, he had a 77.8 coverage grade. You're getting an upgrade there, and this is a Florida kid. I know the program he's from. He will fear nothing, so that's good. Kai Bates, he's a kid I know, another Orlando kid. He played at Edgewater. He's the guy that is crazy about football, but he's also like a 4.0 student coming out of high school. So academically, socially, he's all that. He had his hand get caught in a helmet. I saw him in one of his last games that he played in high school. He had a big like bandaged all up. And I'm like, what happened? He said, well, I got it cut off because my hand got caught in a helmet. I was like, you did what? He had part of his finger cut off to go back in the game. So he's a little different too. He didn't play as much as I thought he would, but Florida State's got a lot of DBs. It's the one spot. Over the last 2 years, they've had multiple guys that could entertain the NFL and all that, which it's Florida. You throw a rock, you hit a Division I defensive back in the state of Florida. But he's 6'2", 200 pounds. My only question, and I don't know what Wisconsin's going to run next year, how do they use him? Because he's a big guy. If you played a cover 3 scheme, he could be the big boundary corner or something like that, or maybe play him to the field and just, because he can take on guys in the screen game. But I think he could also play safety. Where does Wisconsin use him? I'm not sure, but Bates is very talented. LSU wanted him out of high school. He flipped from there to go to Florida State, national recruit, top 200 by everybody. And again, great guy off the field. So those 2 guys I'm familiar with, they're good. That alone is a good sign. And then they get a couple other guys too early. They're going out and spending some money.
Let me ask you this. So, and specifically with Kai Bates and Bryce West, who they got from Ohio State. Bryce West was a 4-star kid in the 2024 class, both with unique physical skill sets that the Badgers rarely get in the secondary. Both can run, both can turn and burn, a little bigger. Is this the way maybe the Badgers, you get upside in the room? You target 4-star kids a year or 2 after they come out of high school and maybe they haven't played. Is that a way to get those upside athletes?
You can, but there's a danger zone. Like I know Kai, I'm not worried about him. He's a good guy. I don't know the kid that's going to Wisconsin from Glenville via Ohio State. As long as the people are good off the field, that's okay. But let me give you an example. It can go either way. This past season, Florida State did okay with the portal, but the year before when they bombed, they took a bunch of blame out from Bama and Georgia. They won 2 games. The locker room was a mess. It's more about the fit and the culture. It's not just talent. in the portal era. People get really ticked off in the room if certain guys come in, haven't played there, haven't been through it and sweat, but they're getting paid. So you got to find that happy medium. It is really hard. It is really hard. I think Miami and Oregon have done the best job with that. They've had a lot of guys pass over people, and somehow their locker rooms have been okay. They're in the Final Four, but that doesn't normally work. So as long as Wisconsin's getting the right guys, it's okay. But Indiana's got the best team right now, I think, and they took a bunch of G6 and like MAC players. So there's different ways to do it. They just got to make sure that regardless of the player and the upside, like Kai Bates, like if you see him walk in the room, you say yes. I mean, it's just he has no body fat. He's 205 pounds. That's what you're looking for. But he didn't play. Something wasn't right there. I don't know what it is because he's a really smart guy. They got to figure out how to use him. But again, as long as the culture is good, I think Wisconsin will be fine.
Well, I also think not to compare to cars, but when cars come off the lot, there's a new car price, and then a year later it's a little cheaper, then a little cheaper. We saw this with Tackett Curtis is a great example. He went to USC as a 5-star, 4-star elite player. A couple years later, he's transferring again from Wisconsin, and it just kind of feels like he's never going to be that, right? So at what point do you start to say that ranking, that rating was upside? He's not probably going to be that. Is that 2 years in? Is that 3 years in? Where do you stop paying attention to the high school pedigree?
Probably after 2 years, you can kind of just say it's not necessarily the talent. It's probably on the chalkboard, especially at quarterback. That's why quarterback's impossible. The thing that we need to know the most is how are they going to adjust to what's going on post-snap. Well, in high school, they play against a bunch of generic defenses. You can't, you're guessing. But like defensive players, it's a little bit easier. They got to do some scheme stuff. You should be able to know maybe a year or so in, like, is the kid dedicated to learning film? Is he dedicated to his craft in terms of his diet and all that? You're going to know that just from talking to the strength coaches and what they're doing off the field. They always got people watching the kids. Every now and then there's a kid that hits as a senior or fifth-year senior, but that's the exception, not the rule. And that's usually a maturity deal. It's not the physical traits. It's they finally dedicate, oh, this is my last year. I might want to not go out and get drunk all the time and act like an idiot, which a lot of kids do at any given school, and it's why they don't make it. A guy like Kai Bates, I highly doubt is that problem. So, again, who are you bringing in culturally? You'll have a longer leash if you're that guy too, getting paid to make it, and you probably got a better chance to be a really good player earlier in your career.
Could he be – this is a spot the Badgers have needed for a while, and I don't know if he could fit that. Could he be kind of a single high safety type, or is he more – would he be more in the box?
I don't think it matters. He can run well enough to do either, and he's a physical kid. Like Kai can play receiver. He can play strong safety. He could be your boundary corner or whatever. He's a really good athlete. I don't know their scheme well enough to speak on it, but I think he would be great in a scheme kind of like Miami. They play a lot of zone, play a little man under, and attack the football downhill. I think that kind of scheme fits him. What is Wisconsin's bag? Like, are they going to be more of a man team moving forward? Or they're going out and getting some guys. Mm-hmm. They could adjust it some, but are they going to still play zone? Like, what do you think they're going to do next year, Ryan?
I think they're going to try to play more man. They played a lot of zone, but it's been a little limited because of what they've had at the corner spot and what they've had at the safety spot. They've had to protect young safeties that, quite frankly, have been pushed into service because they lost to Preston Zachman, who transferred to Indiana this offseason. So they've had to protect their guys a little bit. I think Tressel wants to play more zone or more man. He just hasn't had the horses.
If you can mix it up, it really screws with young quarterbacks. I don't know what their schedule is next year, but there aren't many quarterbacks coming back in that league that I'm like, oh boy, good luck with that one. Dante might turn pro. Julian Sayan's back to Penn State. After that, is there anybody you're like, man, that guy's just going to kill us no matter what? Big Ten's not great at quarterback next year. Bryce, I don't know what's going to happen there at Michigan, but Iowa's, Minnesota, he's okay. Like Northwestern, Indiana went and got the kid. Hoover, but most of the teams if you just mix it up a little bit, you can get turnovers. So if they can play some man, it will change your defense, especially against some of the upper echelon teams. On 3rd and 3, you've got to be able to play bump and run coverage. If you can't, you're probably not an elite defense. There are very few exceptions to that.
Yeah, and Wisconsin misses a lot of those teams. They miss the Ohio State. They miss Indiana and Hoover. They'll miss Oregon. They will play at Penn State. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting. But they miss a lot of those teams. Obviously, Notre Dame to kick off the season is going to be interesting. But in the Big Ten itself, they miss a lot of those, Brian. Let's talk really quick. Continue on offense, receiver. Wisconsin did add Shamar Rigby, Oklahoma State, formerly at Purdue, 6'3". We talk about this all the time. You just need a guy with size and a little bit of speed on the boundary. He's not an elite speed guy, but he's got the right size. He's played a couple years of ball. They still need 2 or 3 more receivers, Brian. And I'm kind of curious how easy that's going to be for, in your opinion, to fill that group out. But quick thoughts on Shamar Rigby kind of coming in as well to help Colton Joseph.
He's from the St. Pete area. I lived in Tampa. I've known him for a long time. He was humongous when he was 15. His body was almost where it's at now. Like when he walked in, I'm like, what? That kid's an underclassman? So he's always been the guy that everybody knew had a chance. It's just a matter of whether or not they can find a way to get him the ball. And just kind of looking at Shamar's stats this year, like he had against Iowa State, he had 5 catches on 7 targets. He had 3 catches against Kansas. He had 5 out of 8 against Baylor. Against P4 competition, he's pretty good, and he had 25 catches this year. But not trying to pick on him, Oklahoma State was a travesty at quarterback. If he would have played at a school, like they were worse offensively than just about anybody, if he plays at a mid-level Big Ten school this past year, he catches 40 or more passes. He could be your leading receiver next year as a boundary, which is rare. But he, at the very least, in red zone and third downs, he can win one-on-ones. He's a Florida kid, and I can assure you, Shamar is a kid that is not lacking confidence, which, let's be honest, the Badgers probably need a little more moxie, and they need a little more attitude on offense. Shamar will bring that, and he can back it up. Like, again, when he walks out on the field, he looks like a kid that's playing at Michigan or Penn State or whatever. So that's good for Wisconsin's offense.
How easy is it going to be for them to fill out the rest of this room? I don't think you're going to listen. Indiana got a Nick Marsh, but if you can fill it out with, can you fill it out with 2s and 3s and be okay if you can run the ball and you have Colton Joseph?
Yeah, I think part of it, you got to remember with Colton Joseph, you're going to have like one play a game. If he sees it, that the corner or the safety's got eyes in the backfield and the guy's running by him, you've got a chance at a free touchdown in every game with him as your quarterback. It's whether or not they connect. So that's part of it. And secondarily, again, we come back to NIL. They've spent so far, but I don't know what their budget is. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name the player or the school, but there's a kid that's played 1 year of college football, didn't play at a prominent program, but he kind of a Shamar Rigby type that I'm told is going to get 1.6. I don't know where Wisconsin's number is at, but I'm guessing it's not there. Okay, so depends on what your definition of 2s and 3s are, but they already got, like, getting Rigby's really important because he can play boundary. Yeah. There are only so many guys that are 6'2" and above that can make 50-50 contested catches against the guy in the Big Ten. When you're playing some of your better teams, they're going to line up a guy and say, beat me. We're playing cover 1. We're not hiding anything. Here we come. Or we're playing cover 0. If you don't have guys that are playmakers at the line, your quarterback's going to get throttled. So they're getting one guy. That'll help you get another. Do they have anybody coming back that can help? Probably not a lot. Maybe they get a tight end or something that helps as well. There's different ways to do this. I'd love to see them get a running back that's pretty good in the passing game. There's different ways to attack it. So it's not just wide receiver either.
Yeah, that's well said. We're going to take a quick second here. Come back, talk about a running back. Probably not one to help as much in the passing game, but Abu Sama as well from Iowa State. We're going to talk about him, plus some of your questions for Brian Smith from the Discord. That's coming up next. Locked On edition of Locked On Badgers, crossover edition, and Locked On Portal. First, a quick second for our friends of the show and a quick second to say thank you for tuning in. Brian, let's see here. Abu Sama, Iowa State running back, has been there a couple of years, 700 yards last year. Compact guy between the tackles, some explosiveness, 5.2 yards per carry for Iowa State last year. Continue with the theme. Feels like another good piece that they brought in.
This is a kid that could play for anybody. Like, he could play at Ohio State. I saw him in that game against Kansas State early in the year. I mean, that's what you're looking for. No fear. He can read the holes. He's a guy that's over 200 pounds. He has experience at the P4 level. He could be running back. Well, I don't know who's going to stay or go. But, like, if he was the starter next year for Wisconsin, they could do a heck of a lot worse. And combining him again, I come back to this time and time again. Colton Joseph, when he fakes and goes around the end for the first time and goes for 40, every defensive end for the rest of that game against the Badgers is going to hesitate, or they're just guessing, because Joseph is so twitchy. Even if you guess quarterback, you may not get him. So you got to hedge that way, and that's going to give somebody like Sama, who's really strong, those arm tackles in the backfield, probably not going to do you much. I don't think he's going to have any problems eclipsing 500 yards in a rotation where they go like 3 guys. If they go 2, he could be 800 to 1,000. It wouldn't shock me. They're going to be pretty run heavy. That's fine. He's used to it. He was with Carson Hansen last year at Iowa State, who transferred to Penn State. He's really good too. I think that Wisconsin's younger backs who are now sophomores and juniors, they could have a pretty good running back room. And again, just running RPO, just the generic fake, like I'm going around the end, the running back takes it up the middle. They should average 4.5, 5 yards of play on that, which is a far cry because nobody respected the run game until Carter Smith came in towards the end of the year, and it killed the running back. So having that dual threat, this is a guy that can be your power back. This is a great pickup for the Badgers.
You hit on something that I've talked about, but you said it really well. A term I've used with Colton Joseph is gravity, where just the gravity of him running the ball, it's going to make it easier for the running game, but it's going to make it easier for the offensive line because teams, you can't just pin your ears back. You have to rush with a little bit of contain. You have to have pass rush integrity. It's going to make it easier for the receivers and the tight ends because the linebackers are going to take a step up. The safeties are going to have eyes in the backfield. I think just getting that piece, like if you had that piece last year, how much better is Vinny Anthony? How much better is Eugene Hilton? How much better is Dylan Jones? It's just massive. And his ability to run changes everything, I think.
Absolutely. Every player benefits when the quarterback is a consistent mobile threat, not a guy that's just going to run on 3rd and 8 if you drop 7 or drop 8, but a guy on 1st down and 10 or 2nd down and 6 or any other play. You have to at least consider assigning somebody to be a spy, or as you rightfully stated, they've got a little bit of pass rush integrity or containment based into their brain from what the DC said for the game plan, which D linemen hate. But if he escapes around the end for 40 on 3rd and 7, you're going to look like morons. No DC wants that. Everybody's when the boos happen. So they have to make sure he's contained, and you kind of give up the inside run a little bit unless you're just one of those teams that had, like, I forget McDonald, whatever that kid was for Ohio State, the nose guard. There are like 3 of those guys in college football a year. They can take on a double team and still at least be a part of a tackle. There aren't many. So the running back should, like, if I don't know who charts it, but inside runs for the Badgers this next year, just because Joseph's on the field, the yards per carry between the tackles should go up minimum like a half yard a carry. That's a big deal. 3rd and 1s become first downs before they even get to 3rd and 1. And that's what you're trying to do.
Not to spend the entire show on Colton Joseph, but I think it's just such a massive pickup. Who does he remind you of? What quarterback tier would you put him in? Either Big Ten or nationally? Just who's a guy that you're like, he could be kind of that for the Badgers?
Athletically, he's as good as anybody the last several years. He's a little bit like Tommy Castellanos, taller. Like Castellanos could have played running back at Florida State, but he's a better passer. Trying to think, like, there aren't many guys that have his skills to really move a little bit. And I'm not saying he's as good a passer because he's not. Trinidad Chambliss, like that guy, like as a passer is way better than Colton Joseph, but still, like one-on-one, how many people tackle Trinidad? That's going to be the problem with Colton Joseph too. So if he throws for 160 and runs for 80 and you're really good on 3rd downs, and it's kind of in an odd way, it's similar to some of the old school Wisconsin, which they always had a statue at quarterback then, but you're grinding out the clock. You're annoying the other team's offensive coordinator because they can't get back on the field, and you rest your defense. That's always a recipe for helping your team win. So I think that will be very appreciated by Badger fans. And like, there probably aren't 5 guys over the last couple of years that are as athletic as him that can also at least be competitive as passers. Most of the guys that run like him are just terrible at it. Let's be really honest. Or else they don't transfer, they turn pro. I mean, there's no reason to go into the portal. I think Joseph, if he improves a little bit, he could be a 1-year hit at Wisconsin and turn pro because athletically, he's exactly what the NFL needs because the D lines are destroying the offensive lines of the NFL. They're destroying them.
That's great. That's great stuff. Well, let's get some Discord comments here. Rockin says, how do you feel about the Wisconsin portal compared to FSU? Again, some Badger fans are a little salty with your comments, but just in general, how has Florida State done? Is it surprised you a little bit?
Florida State is the definition of disjointed. Like right before I did a podcast earlier today, they lost a safety to the portal. Earl Little, he's a good player. He's not unbelievable, but they're not willing to pay most guys. And at the same time, when they said they were bringing Norvell back, we're going to support him enough to be a championship level team. So they're talking out of one side of their mouth and then doing the other with their paychecks. Not a good look. Yeah, like right now, Wisconsin, and let's just say since Friday, this past Friday, has annihilated Florida State. But Florida State has such a higher ceiling based on location. You can screw it up and still be pretty good. But right now, they're doing so bad. Like Wisconsin might beat Florida State if they played them next year. That should never really be the case. But if your administration screws up as much as Florida State's has, absolutely. Like the administration at Wisconsin is on light years ahead for where it's never acceptable, but that's the truth. And they've made some good moves, but it's just crazy. They get one step forward with a good move, and then they'll take two steps back because they don't want to pay guys. It's not how you win.
Smo asked, are you ready to jump on the Badger bandwagon?
I might as well go ahead and go with this. Depends on what you mean by bandwagon, but I'll give my prediction for next year for Wisconsin. Then we'll see what Ryan says, because obviously he knows 10 times more about Wisconsin than me. I originally, before portal season and all that, I remember coming on the show and saying, I need to see it to believe it. I know you were kind of that way too. Let's see if they spend. Then we heard some reports they were going to. I said, this is a 4-win team next year again, because they won't get a quarterback. They'll still have too many holes on the outside. I think they're a 7-win team now. That's how much they've improved. Center, quarterback, receiver, running back. Like, they've improved more in a weekend than just about anybody, if not the most. You could at least argue it. So from a bandwagon standpoint of assembling players, I'm at the front of it. Now you got to put it together. Looking at the schedule, I mean, there's still a few games like Penn State, Notre Dame, a few others I don't expect them to win. But if they don't go to a bowl next year, don't yell at me. Yell at Ryan, because it's all his fault for bringing me on the show, because they should go to a bowl next year at minimum. You know, you don't know how injuries are going to be, and they've been cursed. They should surely have better luck this next season. But they don't play Indiana. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Oregon. That's the 3 best programs in the freaking league.
Also miss Michigan, right? So this schedule's navigable. I see. I think you got to win eight games with this schedule. If you're going to go and spend, and you bring in a Colton Joseph, you do have to go to Iowa. Listen, that's a tough game.
Yeah, until they beat Iowa, I'm picking Iowa. They've got their number right now, but they're at least have a roster to be competitive with them. I mean, this last year was ridiculous. That should never happen in the Wisconsin, Iowa. Come on. So if they lose, it'll be 24-14, not whatever that was. I mean, they got just crushed. Even against Notre Dame, like originally, I thought that was going to be like 38-10. But the roster additions they got, that can be a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter or less. It's possible. Before this past weekend, that game was a 3 or 4 touchdown game. I'm just being honest. They have changed their roster by spending and making the right decisions in terms of where they're going to spend, how they're going to spend, fit, all that. Give Wisconsin credit.
We already kind of talked about this. Means Wisconsin's probably serious. But Papa Rob also says respect to Brian Smith, knowing the haters are coming for him. Still one of the best guests. Papa Rob's a good dude on the Discord. Let me ask you this. In terms of NIL, DD Baller just said NIL estimates for each portal ad. I wouldn't have time to go through each portal ad, but like, what is a starting center? Like, what is the market for a starting center, for example?
That's a great question. There are very, very few of them. There's not enough, like literally not enough numbers to have one. Like starting centers don't leave. It's crazy. Give you an example. Notre Dame center got hurt this year. The guy that was the backup was a junior, and he could transfer wherever because he played really well the back half of the season. He's not getting the portal. He's got starting experience, and that other guy's coming back. They just don't get in the portal. I don't know why. They just don't get in the portal. So there's like 2 of them. I don't know what the number is, but Wisconsin, whatever it is, it's a steal. Because new center, man, like if you bring in some guy and he doesn't jive with Joseph, like it's some guy that, they didn't spend on, like that's not going to work out well. You've got to be on the same page with the QB and a guy that's got 700 reps as a starter, even if it's at a garbage program. Like Oklahoma State was terrible. But what else are you going to get? Go look up centers in the portal, like on 24/7. Horrendous. It's just some guys that you're like, this guy might be our backup to the backup. You know what I mean? Look at their grades are like 40s and 50s on PFF. But yeah, if he's not making $800,000 or something like that or more, I'd be pretty surprised. But again, there aren't enough of them to have like a barometer.
Well, and Badger fans know that really well. The last couple of years, we have cycled through centers. We've had backups and then backups. Let's move another guy there. That guy didn't work. Let's shift somebody else. it's been a 3-year problem. It's been a Luke Fickell problem. And the guy he brought over originally never got healthy. He got hurt. We couldn't find a solution. So, yeah, we know that problem pretty well. Question from ATX Badger. Why is the SEC had such a bad bowl season? Is the Big Ten the strongest conference?
This is a great debate. There are a couple of things here. I just say it. Nick Saban was right. I hate that he is, but he was right. If you're not making the playoff, especially down south where I live in Alabama, the kids don't care. You're never going to be able to grade the SEC on bowl season again. That sucks. But down here, those kids, NFL or playoff, that's the only two things they're thinking about. It's not good, but you can't grade it. As for the Big Ten, it's not as deep, but the top of the league, I mean, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, top of the league right now is better than the SEC. And the reason is very simple. The SEC has always dropped bags and cheated like crazy. Not that some Big Ten teams did to a certain degree, but like Georgia, it cheated like crazy forever. LSU, those kids won't sit on the sideline anymore because of the automatic transfer and play rule. Kids leave. It's always going to be easier to recruit to Georgia. A dead rat could recruit to Georgia. Got so many kids around them, but they won't sit and wait. Kirby's roster is nowhere near what it used to be. If it was, they'd win it every other year. I mean, it's that easy. So now the Big Ten or anybody else, if things can go just right, you can make a run. Look at Texas Tech. I mean, their offense was just terrible, and they still made into the second round of the playoff. Like, this is a sign that college football has changed. There's more parity. There's still a few teams at the top, like there are 4 or 5 programs that I think are a little different than everybody else. And if quarterback works right, et cetera, they're probably going to be there. Some of them are in the Final Four right now, and a couple are just out. But like Wisconsin could jump into that group if they spend like this every year. Why couldn't Wisconsin be a team that makes the playoff? Got to do it 2 or 3 years. High school recruiting's got to continue to get better. But what they're doing in the portal right now will eventually help Wisconsin in the 27 class, 28 class, 29 class with recruiting. Then you can compound the players and have some less concerns, let's just say, about having to use the portal, because you're not always going to hit like Wisconsin is this year. I mean, that's probably not realistic either. But this should be a good starting point for the Wisconsin program.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something I've talked to as well. The money, if it stays consistent, is going to outlast coaches. It's going to outlast recruiting misses. It's something that you can build on year after year, which is going to build your depth. It's going to build your infrastructure. It's going to build your coaching staff. It's going to build your back room. All that stuff matters. Question here from Badger Jer. About 7% of the portal guys have signed so far. Does this give schools more power in negotiating with players? The longer this goes on, the longer players don't sign. Is there a spot where this tips and the schools start to have the leverage?
There's both ways here. There isn't one answer. The reason only about 7% signed, I'm just going to be honest. I tell kids this all the time. I work Coastline 7-on-7. I scout kids all over the country. A lot of kids think their value is X when it's really Y. It's not a very friendly conversation. And I'm talking like $300,000-$400,000 a year difference. And then when they get in the portal and they see, oh, the school that I was just at said the same thing, then they come back. It's not coming back because they wanted to. It's because it was their best offer. So that's part of it. Secondarily, let's use the situation with Trinidad and the whole goofiness with LSU and all that. Those kinds of things at different positions. It's easy to talk about quarterback. They set the market back because LSU is a destination school. If you're a quarterback playing for Lane, although he's a goofball, probably pretty attractive. Once LSU's set, you'll see quarterbacks. It'll be like a deck of cards folding. So I'm sure there's some other spots like that. There's the defensive tackle from Wake Forest. He's got suitors everywhere. He can pick any school he wants. Once he picks, same thing. The deck of cards will go down. It's the top of the board. Coaching cycle, recruiting cycle, everything, the top guy. Once the top, like Sam Levitt, once he picks school, maybe it's LSU, these things will happen. So over half the kids in the portal are going to end up at a level they don't even want, let alone the money. Like, that's the biggest problem. There are more kids in the portal than have spots by a million miles because I'm a Power 4 guy. Okay, sure you are. But no comment.
I'm sure somebody told him he was, right? Somebody, some uncle, some agent.
Nothing worse than the third uncle. Nothing worse. So
because he's watched a couple clips of Huddle, like he's seen some football on TV. He knows, Brian. Question from Tori here. Which of the Badgers transfer portal pickups will outplay the perceived portal ranking? We lack maybe a true star. We have a lot of 3-star, quote unquote, 3-star portal pickups. Who's a guy you think could outplay the perceived talent level here or ranking?
Probably Javon Robinson, because he played at Arizona State. He's not going to get a lot of pub, but he played a lot of reps. Like this past season, he played 659 reps. And that, it's not a great league. I make fun of the Big 12 a lot, but they do throw it around. And they got quarterbacks. Holy cow, do they have quarterbacks? He still had a pass grade of just under 70 in coverage. Like, that's a guy he doesn't fit the measurable. He's 5'11", 180. Just, whatever. But he's productive, and he's done it for multiple years, and he's been healthy. Like corner, safety, doesn't matter where the guy is. If he's in the secondary and he's a multi-year starter and he's coming to your program, he's going to help you in some way because he's figured it out above the shoulders. This is a guy that's played P4. Don't just look at Robinson. He's like, again, he's 180 pounds and just say, he'll be okay. He might be their best corner next year. He's already proven.
I love it. He is Brian Smith, Portal Podcast. Brian, it's great to have Mr. Positivity on the show, talking all things good Wisconsin Badgers. Last question here on the way out the door. Up to this point, you really like what they've done. Top 5 portal class. What do you need to see the rest of the portal cycle from Wisconsin?
I'm just going to say something that will make the people, and I know they watch, they can deny it. People in the Wisconsin office, they're going to have to do something that nobody else is not trying to do too. They're going to have to find a way to pull somebody off a roster, just flat out cheat at D-line, because there's not enough D-linemen in the portal. They're like the D-tackle board is grossly bad. If they ain't cheating, they ain't trying. You got to get somebody. It's just true. Well, I live in the SEC country. That's like a joke down here. If they ain't cheating, their fans are mad. But they have to be able to get a D tackle that's an under the radar guy. Maybe it's somebody from Ivy League. Maybe it's a guy from the MAC. I forget the kid's name, but one of the guys for Indiana this year played at like freaking Toledo last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a dude. Can you scout the right guy for your system? Because it's not across the board how good a player is. It's how good he will be for you and what you do. They got to find that guy because D-line's bad, and they got to take another step up there. I'm not saying it's going to be Indiana's productivity because like they smashed Ohio State's offensive line. Is that going to happen next year for bad? Probably not, but doesn't mean you can't be better at pass rushing. Getting the corners is the start. Getting the D lineman is the finish line.
That's well said. And to your point, a guy that you talked about a lot last year, Ben Barton, that kind of big interior defensive tackle.
So good.
He's gone. You got to replace him. He's gone.
That guy's good.
He's really good. And speak to further your point, you talking about Indiana getting a guy from Toledo. Barton was a guy who came on as an offensive lineman, spent 3 years kind of toiling in the program. They switched spots. Like he's a guy that old school developed. He's an old school developmental story.
That's why it's so important to have the right strength program and have the right structure, all those little things. Guys sometimes find their way. It's random, but if you keep doing it, you're going to hit.
He is Brian Smith. Brian, where can people find everything you got going on?
Portal Podcast. If you want something that's going on with our quarterback room, I just did a pod on that. I'm getting ready to upload it. I did the live show already. If you want negativity, just go check out Locked On Seminoles. I'm going to be hating on them again tonight. Like I have no idea what's going on over there. But again, Locked On the Portal and Locked On Seminoles.
He's Brian Smith. I'm Ryan Harings. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers, Locked On Portal crossover on Wisconsin, and we'll definitely talk to you again tomorrow.